Hey everyone, and welcome to Tactical Inc., your portal to the captivating realm of all things Lorcana. I'm Bradley.
And I'm Alex. Today we continue discussing the tactics and strategies from Ursula's return, and the ink color of the day is ruby.
We won't cover all the ruby cards from the set, just the ones that we feel are going to impact the game. So please let us know in the comments if you feel we missed something.
So to start out, we'll look at the common rarity cards from Ruby, and the ones that have caught our eye. The first one that we're going to take a look at is Fazu, Mulan's father. Fazu is a 2-ink, inkable character with 0 strength, 4 willpower, and 1 lore. He's a storyborn and mentor, and he has 2 abilities. The first, War Injury, says this character can't challenge, and the second, Head of the Household, says exert this character, ready chosen character named Mulan, she can't quest for the rest of this turn. Overall, I think this is a bad card. I don't really see it getting a whole lot of play, but there's a couple things about it to mention that I think are pretty cool. One is just the story aspect being brought into the game that I think is really neat. How he has the War Injury ability, which is not good for him, but that bringing in a little flavor from the actual movie. But more on the actual gameplay, being able to ready your Mulan Elite Archer is a pretty cool idea. Allowing her to damage a whole lot of characters, up to 6 characters in one turn, could be completely devastating and wipe your opponent's entire board.
And yeah, if you're playing this card, it's only good with Mulan. And there is 8 different Mulans in the game so far, but there are very few that are playable, like the one Alex mentioned, Mulan Elite Archer. I believe you're better off running cards like LeFou, Instigator, that can ready any character of yours, rather than just Mulan. Next up, we have Hercules, Clumsy Kid. Hercules is a ruby character that costs 3 and is uninkable. He has 3 strength and 3 willpower with 1 lore. He is a storyborn, hero, and prince, with the keyword rush. Here we have a ruby version of Rafiki Mysterious Sage, a card that saw a lot of play until the introduction of Madame Mim Fox. But as of right now, arguably the most used decks are Amethyst Ruby, which means you'll be running the Fox over this card 10 times out of 10. Now if you're running something outside of Amethyst with your Ruby, I could see this being used, but then again it's uninkable, and Ruby already has several great uninkable cards like Be Prepared, Madame Medusa, Sisu Daring Visitor, and Sisu Empowered Sibling. Not to mention there is Stitch Little Rocket, who comes out a turn earlier and can remove threats from the board with his rush and 3 power.
Having him as a potential shift option for more Hercules Floodborns that we may see in the future could be decent. It just depends on the ink colors there, or even with this new Megara Liberated one that readies every time you play a character named Hercules. This is arguably one of the better cheap Herculeses that you would be playing that around. Obviously that's not something that works yet, but maybe at some point. And the next common we wanted to look at is Mulan Injured Soldier. This Mulan is a 1-ink inkable character with 2 strength and 3 willpower and 1 lore. She is a storyborn hero and princess, and she has the effect Battle Wound, which says this character enters play with 2 damage, effectively making her a 2-1 rather than a 2-3. However, the main point of using this card is in either a Ruby Amber deck or Ruby Amethyst deck that's going to focus on moving damage counters or healing your characters. Using this with something like Julieta Madrigal or Rapunzel Gifted with Healing to very quickly take that damage off of Mulan and make her one of the better statted 1-ink characters in the game and a good shift option. Or going another route, playing an Amethyst card like Belle Accomplished Mystic to move the damage off of this Mulan onto an opposing character. It definitely has some potential as the cheapest character in the self-infliction category so far.
And I really wish that these damage characters would be just a little bit better, because there is so many routes you can take with these cards. Like Alex mentioned with Amber and Amethyst, but you also can even go Sapphire route with healing with like Coconut Basket and using Grand Pobby to gain you lore. While there are cards that can be powerful using self-infliction like Hydra, this is just not meta level yet. Next up, we got Pegasus, Flying Steed. Pegasus is a 2-cost inkable character with 3 strength, 1 willpower, and 1 lore. He is a Storyborn and ally with Evasive. So this is the Ruby version of Sir Hiss from Into the Inklands. While Sir Hiss wasn't used at all in the meta, there may be decks rethinking using Sir Hiss and maybe this new Pegasus here. First of all, they avoid removal threats such as Brawl and Sisu Empowered Sibling. Second, they can be a defensive strategy against Diablo, Devoted Herald. And finally, for this Pegasus, you have his Floodborn option and Pegasus Cloud Racer. I'm not sure if you'll see it in decks, but with the way Diablo is overpowering the game, you have to look for some answers somewhere.
And this could be kind of a multi-use tool if you're not wanting to only have an answer to Diablo but also other evasive characters, because he can deal with some things like Flynn Rider, his own biggest fan, Minnie Mouse Stylish Surfer, and as you've mentioned, the Floodborn Pegasus. If your opponent is playing that in something like Emerald Amethyst, this Pegasus can take it out as well. And next, arguably the best common Ruby card from this set, we have Brawl. This is a 3-ink inkable action card, which simply says banish chosen character with 2 strength or less. If you're playing any deck that uses Ruby anymore, you're most likely going to be running a full set of 4 cards of Brawl. This card is simply too powerful not to be playing. It gets rid of Diablo as well as a bunch of other characters. This can help you to deal with Ursula Deceiver of All, Belle Strange but Special, Hiram Flaversham, Sisu Emboldened Warrior, and more.
When you're talking about how many cards it can remove, at first when I saw this card, I figured it wouldn't remove that many. However, after doing the math, it removes almost half of the characters in the game, at 48%. Not only that, but you can pair it up with strength reducing effects like Queen Commanding Presence and Lost in the Woods to knock out even bigger characters. This is pretty much a staple for Ruby and can help control the board early in the game. Our last common card we're going to look at is Vitalisphere. This is a 1-cost item card that is inkable. It has the ability Extractive Ruby that says, pay 1 ink and banish this item. Chosen character gains Rush and +2 strength this turn. Giving characters Rush and 2 strength can be pretty useful, especially for cards like Mulan Elite Archer, who wants to do as much damage as possible, or even Goofy Super Goof, who can increase his power to deal more damage and you still gain lore. I don't believe you'll see much of this card, but it can be a little surprise to an opponent.
Yeah, and it can be pretty useful in a deck like Ruby Sapphire to pair with one of your more basic cards like Grandma Tala, Keeper of Ancient Stories, which only has 3 strength to begin with, but then all of a sudden you can give her 5 strength, or even your Sisu Emboldened Warrior, who may already have quite a bit of strength, and then you pump her up to the level that you really need to banish whatever character you're looking at. This can just be pretty versatile overall. So that's all the common cards that we had worth mentioning. Let's move on to the uncommons. And the first uncommon card we want to look at is a Sing Together card, which is a Pirate's Life. This is a 6-ink inkable song that has Sing Together 6, which means any number of you or your teammates' characters with a total ink cost of 6 or more may exert to sing this song for free. And it says each opponent loses 2 lore and you gain 2 lore. Overall, this isn't affecting the board state at all, so it may not be the best thing to run, but having a 4 lore swing all in your favor could really turn the tides of the game, when Lorcana is a game that's so much about keeping the momentum and being one step ahead of your opponent.
And out of all the Sing Together songs, this is the cheapest. And while you may think getting a +4 lore advantage could be good, it just depends on how many characters you're using to sing this song. It doesn't help you in any other way except exhausting your resources to play it. So in my opinion, it's a pass for now.
Yeah, being the cheapest Sing Together song, it could more likely be sung by only one character, something like a Madame Medusa, which only quests for 1 anyway once you've got her on the board. And that's one reason I would maybe eventually consider it.
Next up, we got Beast, Wounded. Beast is a 3-cost inkable character with 2 strength, 6 willpower, and 2 lore. He is a Storyborn, hero, and prince. He has the ability called That Hurts, which says this character enters play with 4 damage. This is another self-damaging character that was introduced this set. And like Mulan, I don't think this card's really doing anything right now, because at its core, it's a 2/2 character with 2 lore. It can only be a 2/6 character if you remove damage from it. So unless you're running healing cards like Rapunzel gifted with healing, or cards that remove damage from him like Maleficent, Mistress of All Evil, I would stay away from this card. I would actually rather run Megara, Captivating Cynic, who has 1 extra strength and the 6 willpower already. Not only that, but if you don't heal Beast in time, he is pretty much dead to all removal in the game.
Yeah, and even with using Rapunzel gifted with healing on the next turn, she only removes up to 3 damage, so then you're still left with a 2/5. He's not even meeting his final stat line of 2/6. And next we'll look at Hercules Daring Demigod. Hercules is a 5 ink character who is uninkable and has 7 strength, 3 willpower, and no lore. He's a Dreamborn hero and prince who has rush and reckless. So this is most comparable to Maui Hero to All, who is a 6/5 inkable for 5 ink. This is a 7/3 uninkable for 5 ink. Obviously the uninkable is what hurts him the most, because you're always going to be choosing what's worth putting into those uninkable slots. But the other thing that I feel like hurts him a lot is the 3 willpower. He's most likely not going to make it through more than 1 challenge. However, he can banish things that are a little bit stronger than Maui, so if the meta ever demands you to need to be able to banish something that has 7 willpower, then this guy might make it into play.
Yeah, the only way I can see him really being used if you're wanting a 5th copy, if you will, of Maui. Or if your opponents are running a lot of locations, they have higher willpower sometimes. He can help take care of that. But still, I think Maui's the way to go.
Yeah, if you're ever needing to deal with something like the Queen's Castle, if that's becoming a really big deal, this is a better answer than Maui is.
Next up, we have Sisu, Daring Visitor. Sisu is a 3-cost uninkable character with 1 strength and 1 willpower with 1 lore. She is a Storyborn, hero, deity, and dragon. She has evasive, and the ability Bring on the Heat. It says, when you play this character, banish chosen opposing character with 1 strength or less. So Sisu can remove about 20% of the characters in the game. And it can also remove a lot of big threats like Cursed Merfolk, Pegasus Gift for Hercules, Pascal, Rapunzel's companion, Flynn Rider, Charming Rogue, Ursula, Vanessa, Minnie Mouse, Stylish Surfer, and the list just goes on. You may not think that 1 strength is going to do much. You can also run strength reducing abilities like Ice Block to have your opponent's characters go down even more strength and then use Sisu to get rid of them.
Yeah, this is a real aggro killer here. We're seeing a lot of new cards like this in this set that punish your opponent for having low strength characters. And most of the aggro characters in the game that want to flood the field fall into this category. And this is just one more card to fight against that. It also can fight off some other really powerful things like Hiram Flaversham, or the low-cost challenging characters like Rafiki Mystical Fighter and Captain Hook Forceful Duelist. And like Bradley said, this can play really well with the Sisu on Ice Ruby Sapphire deck, which is just a perfect Floodborn for her legendary counterpart. And now we're going to move on to the rare cards for Ruby. The first one we're going to take a look at is Goofy Super Goof. Goofy is a 4 ink inkable character with 2 strength and 4 willpower and 1 lore. He's a Storyborn and hero, and he has Rush, as well as the ability Super Peanut Powers, which says whenever this character challenges another character, gain 2 lore. To me, this feels a lot like a Merlin Goat, being able to come into play and immediately start gaining you lore. Having the 4 willpower is really nice to keep him alive a lot of the time for more than 1 challenge. And I've played against this several times, and it can be a real game changer and kind of hard to deal with. Having only 2 strength isn't the best thing, but you can use him with some strength increasing abilities such as the Queen Commanding Presence or Vitalis Sphere, Maui's Fishhook, any of the support characters in the game.
You can also use our next card on our list, which is Lumiere, Fiery Friend. Lumiere is a 2-cost inkable character with 2 strength, 2 willpower, and 1 lore. He is a Dreamborn and ally. He has the ability called Fervent Address, which says your other characters get +1 strength. So Lumiere giving +1 strength to each of your characters may not seem like the best. However, we're seeing cards like Hidden Cove being used, giving that extra strength to help protect your characters from things like Sisu, Empowered Sibling, and Brawl. So having a character to give each of your characters +1 strength could actually help save your characters from some of these removal cards. You can even make your cards with Rush, such as Maui Hero to All or Madam M Fox, become even more powerful and taking out some of your opponent's bigger threats.
Yeah, I love the design of this card in a game that's really starting to focus on taking out characters with low strength. This is a way to fight back against that, as well as just bringing in the unexpected by making your characters so much more powerful. Even the characters that you already had on the field, you can play him and immediately challenge with one of the characters that you've already had in play that your opponent wasn't expecting to be able to banish their characters. One example, like the card that we just looked at a minute ago, Sisu Daring Visitor, if you played Lumiere after she's already in play, this will make her into a 2/1 character that can now banish that pesky Diablo that your opponent has in play. The next character we're going to look at is Namari, Heir of Fang. Namari is a 3-ink uninkable character with 2 strength and 3 willpower and 1 lore. She is a Storyborn villain and princess with the ability 2 weapon fighting, which says during your turn, whenever this character deals damage to another character in a challenge, you may deal the same amount of damage to another chosen character. I really don't expect this to see any play. The only reason that we mentioned it is just out of the curiosity of the fact that this could be another self-infliction type of card, that if you challenge a character with Namari, then you could deal some damage to one of your characters to then be healed up. Maybe just something worth considering, but I honestly don't think it's gonna really go very far.
She basically has the effect of Mulan Elite Archer, except it only works for one character where Mulan can do it to 2. And she really wants some strength increasing effects like Lumiere, Fiery Friend, or the Queen Commanding Presence to really help her ability out. But yeah, I don't think she's quite fast enough to really be in the meta. Next up, we have Sisu, Emboldened Warrior. Sisu is a 3-cost inkable character with 1 strength and 4 willpower with 2 lore. She is a Storyborn, Hero, Deity, and Dragon. She has the ability Surge of Power. This character gets +1 strength for each card in opponent's hands. This is a card that on turn 3 can have quite a bit of power. And also with its 2 lore, your opponent's going to want to try to remove it, even if it means challenging it. So she's going to be removing your opponent's characters if that's the route they go. She can get worse as the game goes on, just because your opponent's going to be using their hand. However, there's so many more cards now that is drawing cards such as Diablo Devoted Herald, Friends on the Other Side, A Whole New World, and more. That's not even to mention if you're playing a game with more than just 2 people, she can just get overwhelmingly powerful. If you're playing a game with, say, 4 people, she could probably have up to like 14, 15 power on turn 3.
And one really solid combo to use her with is right after you have played your Flynn Rider Frenemy in a Ruby Amethyst deck, because she's simply bound to be the most powerful character on turn 3 to help Flynn's effect stay in play for as long as possible. Next we have the song Be King Undisputed, which is a 4-ink uninkable song, which says each opponent chooses and banishes one of their characters. So this is just a song version of Lady Tremaine, where she costs 6 ink, this one only costs 4, and it can be played for free. You really don't want to play this for its cost, just like most other songs. and it can take a bit of a high learning curve to be able to play it well. But being able to play this for free by singing it and then putting down something else like Lady Tremaine or Madame Medusa to banish yet another one of your opponent's characters, that can really devastate their board presence. And it also gets around all of these ward characters like Bucky and Prince John that want to just sit on the board and not do anything. This is a great way to be able to deal with some of those threats.
And for our last rare card, we have the location Snuggly Duckling, Disreputable Pub. This is a 2-cost inkable location that has a move cost of 2 and a willpower of 9. It has the ability Routine Ruckus, which says whenever a character with 3 strength or more challenges another character while here, gain 1 lore. If the challenging character has 6 strength or more, gain 3 lore instead. So about 55% of Ruby characters have 3 strength or more. However, there's only 12 characters that have 6 strength or more in Ruby. You can use other abilities like the Queen Commanding Presence or characters that use support to help get your characters above that 6 mark, but you should be gaining a lot of lore with Ruby. I love all these effects in Ruby that have to do with challenging, like Shere Khan, Menacing Predator, that gains you lore while challenging, and I'm hoping that we'll still see more of these effects and eventually get them on a higher meta level.
And one setup that I think could be really powerful using the Snuggly Duckling would be with Scar Vicious Cheater, who readies himself over and over after banishing a character. And of course he has Rush. So to put him into the Snuggly Duckling on the turn he's played, you'd have to have 9 ink. However, that's not unheard of, like in decks that use Lucky Dime to win the game with 9 ink on a turn. This would be a similar setup. 9 ink, and then you go ahead and banish your opponent's entire board, gaining you 3 lore on every character you're banishing. That's pretty powerful. Because of the high move cost here of 2, you could try to move one of your characters here with some of the free move abilities that we have, such as Jim Hawkins' Space Traveler, Go the Distance, or the new Tuk Tuk, Lively Partner. I definitely think this location has some real potential as the game moves forward. And that's all for our rare cards. In the super rare category, we only have one card to look at, and that is Flynn Rider Frenemy. This Glimmer of Flynn Rider is a 2-ink inkable character who has 2 strength and 2 willpower and 1 lore. He is a Storyborn hero and prince with the ability Narrow Advantage, which says at the start of your turn, if you have a character in play with more strength than each opposing character, gain 3 lore. This has been a key piece in Ruby Amethyst as of late, helping you to start off the game really fast, where Ruby Amethyst used to play a very slow startup game. So this 2-2 stat line is really proving to be one that needs to be dealt with quickly in the current metagame. Between both Flynn Rider Frenemy and Diablo Devoted Herald, there's some real problems in the early game that you're going to want to be able to find answers to. So if you're playing against this card, you may want to look at things like Brawl or Baboom, things like that can quickly take him out. Because if left unchecked, he's going to be giving your opponent a lot of lore fast.
Yeah, and one thing I like about Flynn Rider, he doesn't have to be exerted, or he doesn't have to activate ability or even quests to get this lore, which means he's going to be really hard to be challenged and taken care of unless you do have removal like Brawl or Sisu Empowered Sibling or something like that. There is one con to this card, and that is usually if you have a character with higher strength, they're challenging a lot. But with Ruby having some of the highest strength cards in the game, you should be gaining quite a bit of lore. And finally, we get to our last 2 cards, the legendaries. Starting with Mulan Elite Archer. Mulan is a 6-cost inkable character with 2 strength, 6 willpower, and 2 lore. She is a Floodborn, hero, and a princess, with Shift 5. She also has 2 abilities. First is Straight Shooter. When you play this character, if you use Shift to play her, she gets +3 strength this turn. And the second effect is Triple Shot. During your turn, when this character deals damage to another character in a challenge, deal the same amount of damage to up to 2 other chosen characters. So first of all, let's talk about Mulan's second ability, Triple Shot. So when she's challenging a character, she's going to be dealing 2 damage to a character. Then you can deal that 2 damage to 2 other characters, which is great. But if you use the shift ability, it's going to be 5 damage for each one, which I think is even better. And that's a combined 15 damage dealt to your opponent's characters, which could honestly be a board wipe at turn 5. There has been many times where I've run this card and they only have 1 or 2 characters in play. And I felt like I needed to hold it in my hand because I didn't feel like it was worth it. But that was very rare. That was just a very rare occurrence.
To me, she's pretty comparable to Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, dealing out that amount of damage, but she can be more devastating at times. She also doesn't get around Ward the way that Tink Giant Fairy does, but she can overall be a lot more powerful. One thing that's tough to me is that she just really doesn't have the greatest shift options. Maybe Mulan Injured Soldier if you're running some healing things. You also have the Mulan Enemy of Entanglement. I'm just not crazy about that card because of the low strength that she has, being very susceptible to damage. Maybe you could even be running Mulan Reflecting, looking at an Amber Ruby Song deck, something like that. I'm hoping that we get some better Mulans to make this elite archer more powerful. And the final card that we'll look at is the legendary Sisu Empowered Sibling. Sisu is an 8-ink, uninkable character with 5 strength, 4 willpower, and 3 lore. She's a Floodborn hero, deity, and dragon, with Shift 6, and the ability I Got This, which says when you play this character, banish all opposing characters with 2 strength or less. When Ursula's Return first came out, I was expecting Under the Sea to be a really powerful card, but this is the one that really took the pie. Being a character just makes it so much more powerful, and being Ruby instead of Emerald, because Ruby Sapphire has proven to be really great with this strength reduction stuff using Ice Block along with Sisu, even giving the deck a new name, Sisu on Ice. So basically she's most often used along with that Ice Block item to reduce your opponent's big threat's strength down to the key 2 strength or less, and then getting them all banished, wiping their whole board, and giving you a really solid character on the board. It can be a really great win condition, and she also has 2 really amazing shift options in Sisu Daring Visitor and Sisu Emboldened Warrior.
Yeah, and again, with that 2 strength or less, you're looking at almost half the cards in the game that she can remove. And then if you are using effects like Ice Block that Alex mentioned, you can even get up to 75% of the characters in the game that has 3 strength or less. She can remove most of the cards of the game and basically be a one-sided board wipe. While Be Prepared is still great and can remove everything, just removing only your opponent's board can really get you at a huge advantage.
Well, that's all for today. What Ruby cards from Ursula's Return do you think will be the best? Please leave us a comment below.
Be sure to follow us on social media to keep up to date on the latest Tactical Ink news. And also be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can tune in every week for a new episode of Tactical Ink.
See you next week.